Good morning and happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Corbin, Justin, Jamie, AJ, Umar, Hunter, Alex, Mike, and Mac. Thank you guys so much for joining today. We're set to have a pretty big week. So far, the SPY is down a little bit. Nothing crazy. But yeah, I mean, it looks like we have just a lot of things going on with earnings. Futures start the week down. Of course, we have all of that crazy news with the Taliban right now. One of the most important stocks that I'm watching for this week, I don't know about you, Tom, but Target. You know, this stock has been on like a slow and steady uptrend for forever now, and they finally have earnings. So I'm curious how they're going to do.
Yeah, me too. And they've been really going up quite a bit lately. And it looks like they're just now starting to maybe get that turnover to the downside that we've been really waiting for, Mike. I know that it's one of those big stocks that has really been going up lately, especially with all these value stocks like Walmart, Target, Lowe's, Home Depot. They've all just been like lately just going up. And, there is a lot of earnings coming up this week, but man, just looking at it, Target has to really start to have I would say they got to have some great earnings or else they're not going to be able to keep up this momentum. I don't think that we'll be able to get back above 267 this week. And it looks like as of today, like you said, a lot of stocks are down. It's just not a good start to the week. We have all this news coming out with the Taliban. I keep seeing stuff with like the Kabul airport, stuff like that. And then looking at like crypto, there's a lot of stuff going on there, but I heard that there's also some like China economic news right now. I'm just checking out CNBC, and they're reporting that China apparently has a slowdown in their economic recovery right now. So that's a bad thing to see, but I don't think that'll affect us too much. But man, it says that their retail sales actually increased in China, which is a pretty good thing to hear. But I don't know why it's making our market go down.
All right, so then we have, welcome Vicky and Jay to the stream, but we have AJ saying, what are your thoughts on calls for Walmart? So, Walmart is, obviously it's like a value stock, but I think depending on how Walmart continues to run, I think that'll definitely have an influence on Target. Like obviously, like if Walmart's sales are booming and they have earnings pretty soon, then obviously that would you would think it would have a positive influence on Target as well. So we'll see what happens, but I would not get calls, especially ahead of earnings. Like that's one of the riskiest things to do, buying any options before earnings. So I definitely wouldn't do that unless you want to gamble, but they'll definitely be on my radar. And we have Jay saying, good morning, mRNA puts today. I was actually just looking at that one. It's like selling off again, Tom, and we all knew it was way overbought.
Yeah, it was way overbought, and man, it's starting to fall back below that $380 support level. If we fall back below 372, I think we'll see just another accelerated sell-off to the downside. It's actually starting to break below the 1,000 SMA too, which generally it hit down here at 372 and kind of failed to move back below. So I could really see it starting to sell off again. Lots of people were waiting for it to keep going down last week, but it had those two huge days to the downside. I think one of them was down like 15 to 20%, somewhere between there. And then we just kind of consolidated for a couple days. And now I feel like we will start to go down again. It looks like that movement, we just had no recovery back to the upside. It was a really flat move back up here. And it looks like there's a solid resistance at 406 that we failed to break out of.
All right, and then we have Alex saying VERB has earnings after the bell. May I ask about VERB past results after earnings? Also, is it wise to play the downtrend of Square? So with VERB, looks like they have pretty mixed results. Like I know that their earnings on November of 2020, it didn't really move the stock at all. A couple weeks it ended up popping up after. Same thing with on May of this year. So, and then again, on what was that? On March 30th of this year, it just kind of like fell. So like I don't see any clear pattern with it, to be honest with you. And we don't really trade penny stocks. So like personally, like I'm just not liking to look at it. Like it's just like it's not like a great play in my eyes, and it's just kind of like a total coin flip.
Yeah, it really is. And it's sitting right around the $200 support. So it could end up going up, I think. But man, these earnings are always so 50-50, especially like with stocks like this that are very low in price. Sometimes you'll see them shoot up 50, 100% even on crazy earnings. So just because it's, the stock price is only $2. So like a $1 move is a nice 50%, pop for Verb. So really looking at it, I'd be really careful with the earnings coming up, but I would say it looks decent to the upside, like for the longer term. But it's really hard to say. It's not my, not my favorite stock. And I don't really know too many fundamentals with Verb, but I remember hearing about him a couple years ago being pretty positive.
Tom, what's going on with Neo? Look at this thing. NIO, it's down like 5% and it's falling even more, and the market just opened.
Man, we broke $40. Not a good sign. That gap down this morning was really bad. Looks like we had a little bit of a recovery going on now with that. Like you said, as soon as the market opened, a lot of red momentum kind of came in here. A lot of negative movement. Really starting to fall below that low of pre-market around 38.85. That's a terrible move actually that we're seeing right now. That move below $40 was honestly really bad in pre-market. Wish I would have picked up on this one earlier, but man, NIO is just not looking good. Really, I'm going to start looking at selling puts, getting some shares for the longer term, Mike. I know you talked about that even in the video yesterday. And man, it honestly looks really good right now below support. Man, there's a big support at $30, but man, since we broke 40, I would say we could go almost all the way down to 30 if we can, maybe go a little bit lower here.
Hunter goes, Neo from the top ropes. Sheesh. Yeah, Hunter, get ready to sell some puts on this one this week. I'm looking at Neo for some short puts, Redfin, and Zoom. So let me know what you're seeing. And then we have to answer the rest of Alex's question. He said, is it wise to play the downtrend for Square? So, yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. It's at a pretty big resistance, 280. Market's a little shaky right now. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty decent idea. Just one thing to make sure is you're going to want to have a quality option. Like, you don't want to get, like, the, September 3rd, 220 strike puts. Like, you want to get relatively close to the money. And I know that Square, the options are pretty expensive. So, if you do play it, just make sure you have, like, a nice quality option.
Yeah, and I hope it keeps going down for you. It is kind of like sitting like right around this like supportish area. Not a huge support for it, but just a support for the past few days. Let's see, it's going to be right around 265, somewhere like really close to there. So I would say watch out for that support. Maybe we'll get another like small bounce like today or tomorrow. But other than that, I think it'll definitely start to go down here sometime soon. It's definitely had a nice rip to the upside ever since like May.
All right. So, Tom, let's take a look at the SPY overall. It looks like we're down around 0.37%. So, like, Tom, what are you thinking? Like, I know that there's a lot of crazy things going on in the market right now. Like, can you give us some levels on the SPY?
Yeah, the SPY actually is a really good level coming up here right around 443. I think that'll end up being a pretty decent support level for it. Today, though, there's a pretty good support around 444. So I do like 444. 443 will be next today, though, if we do end up breaking through there. You could say like 442.75, somewhere like really close to that. But at that point, you might as well just say 443. So just looking at the SPY, I'd say it looks like it might start going to the downside again, Mike. We've had a lot, like you said, there's a lot of stuff going on in the market right now. We have this stuff all going on in Afghanistan. We have a lot of weird stuff going on, like with the Fed right now. Apparently, there's like growing support that they're going to be announcing tapering of like their bond purchases like later on in September. I know that they've been talking about that at their meetings, so we'll have to see how that goes. That minutes comes out this week too. So there's definitely a lot of stuff going on. And then we have the infrastructure bill thrown in with all these crazy earnings. So lots of stuff going on. Looks like the SPY is kind of selling off today. I'll say, Mike, it looks like a lot of people might be taking profits up here at the top. And man, I'm honestly just kind of like waiting for the market to drop at this point. We have all this negative stuff going on, and I would think that at some point the market falls, but especially with the news of the Fed possibly tapering bond purchasing, that's a pretty big thing to hear. But, we've been hearing about that for a while, so that might not affect the market much. But man, these retail earnings this week, I think are going to really weigh in on the situation and just on like the recovery right now, because Powell kept talking about like jobs. And then I know that if they don't have good numbers, those jobs are not going to be going too well.
True that. So I know one thing to keep in mind is that VXX, Tom, like we're already down 0.5% on the SPY, and it's not looking too good overall. Like, it could be a pretty good hedge to maybe grab some calls.
It could. And look at like the VIX index already up 12% today, actually bouncing like right off of that fit. I know the VIX support isn't necessarily the biggest support level in the whole market, but the $15 level on the VIX index is actually holding up very nice. And I think the VXX looks like it could be a good hedge, Mike. It's pretty low. We're only like a couple dollars from the lows over the past couple weeks right now. And man, this is actually starting to really get up there today. So I'm with you. I think that could be a pretty good hedge. Maybe grab like a couple of calls, or maybe just a few shares of VXX or something, or UVXY even. That might be a little bit more volatile if you can catch if you can time it better. But man, the VXX looks like it might start ripping, Mike. And sometimes whenever the market, if we get like a big drop on this, Taliban news or something, man, the VXX could easily start to pop like 20-30% over the next few weeks.
Indeed. So, Tom, we have Target selling off. It's down like 1% today. It just broke below that 260 support. Definitely keep it on your radar. And then we have Manny Money saying thoughts on MU calls. Let's take a look. MU. It's not bad. It's bouncing off that 70 support pretty big. I'm actually glad you called it out. It's not bad at all.
Yeah, I really like MU. I think it could end up being pretty good. I've been talking about him a lot in a lot of the streams and the videos and stuff, so I won't go too much into detail, but I will say I do like them. They're a good memory company. $70 support. Hopefully that holds up. They've been really been getting beaten down on the daily. I think for shares right now, it's a fantastic time to start to average in. As far as like leaps or calls go, I think it's a pretty good time as long as it holds 70. That's going to be the big thing. If we fall back below here, I think we could fall almost all the way back down to the $60 support. But just looking at it, I think we might hold 70.
All right. And then we have Muscle saying, good morning all, with NVIDIA earnings release after the bell Wednesday, add or wait? I'm long for the days when earnings releases are good and the stock jumps. Not the case these days, watching Palantir and Disney. So, yeah, I mean, the earnings are always a coin flip, but NVIDIA is a powerhouse company. But then again, in the market, it looks like we're seeing a lot of people de-risk themselves given all of the current events going on right now. Also, like on a technical level, NVIDIA is making lower highs. Like when you look at this daily chart, their first high was around like 209. Then it was like 207, and now it looks like it's like 203. So it is making lower highs, which isn't a good sign. So yeah, it's a 50-50 with this earnings though. And then he said he's watching Palantir and Disney, two solid companies.
Yeah, I like Palantir and Disney a little bit better right now. Of course, NVIDIA is like way up here at the top. I love NVIDIA, guys. Don't get me wrong. I just want to buy it, if we get a little bit of a dip or something on it. I think it would be a lot better time, obviously, to get in. Disney's chart's actually not looking bad. It had a big downturn on Friday, and it's actually been going red. And, I'm not saying to, grab it after going red on earnings necessarily, but definitely eye it up. I've been looking at Disney like for the longer term with some shares. I know that we have that leap position already, Mike, but just looking for shares and stuff like that to average into as it starts to maybe fall over like the next like couple days, and then maybe like ride that momentum back up. Because man, those earnings initially were really good, Mike. They had great numbers, and Disney really popped up, and then the next day it opened, it just slowly slid off all day. And man, we've seen this with earnings time and time again. I think DraftKings even did this on their earnings, and just looking at it, I would hope it starts to go back up again over the next few days.
All right. And then we have Maine saying DraftKings is also down. So yeah, I saw that. It's down like almost 2% today. Looks like it's trying to bounce intraday off this 52 support. And then we have I'm Fierce saying Apple's doing great. So I actually saw that. Out of all the stocks that are kind of shaky today, Apple is exploding. Look at this. They just broke all-time highs.
Yeah, they did actually. They broke out of that all-time high, and looking at them on the daily, there was a big resistance there at like 150, and I'm really happy to see them running like this. Apple's been really consolidating, and they've been like one of those big stocks for like the past couple of years, and they were honestly consolidating for a long time here, almost for about a whole year before they finally broke out and finally like broke this like little like wedge pattern that they were in, if I drew the bottom line there. But man, Apple was just such a crazy stock to trade. It ended up consolidating here for like a few weeks, Mike. It really had a lot of like mixed opinions on it. It was like consolidating here for so long. And, I thought we were going to see Apple go down whenever we saw these like 3 red days in a row, like these 3 red dojis. I thought we were going to see a turnaround, but it looked like a turnaround to the upside. honestly, great thing to see. And I hope it's helping the overall market, but I'm going to try to draw the bottom of this like wedge pattern here. Yeah, it actually was actually playing perfectly off of that bottom trend line. So overall, great plays out of Apple. And man, I hope it continues to go because I'd like to see the QQQ and maybe the SPY somehow turn back to green today after gapping down like that.
All right. And then we have Hunter saying the Fed said they are weighing stopping asset purchases by mid 2022. That's pretty big, it's we're in an interesting time right now. Then we have Steve saying Netflix is killing it. Let's take a look. NFLX. Yeah, they're doing pretty well, up like 0.6%. We're having an interesting day so far. Apple's definitely leading the way though.
Yeah, Netflix does look pretty decent, but like Mike said, Apple's really going. I would expect some of these other tech stocks to maybe start to come in. And one thing to keep in mind is that Netflix has kind of been in that same thing. Ever since last July, they've just been kind of flat. And just like we're seeing with Apple and Nvidia now, those stocks are now starting to get up to all-time highs and finally break out of those type of setups. I would expect that to happen now with Netflix and a couple others. Now that we're seeing it like with Apple and then seeing it with AMD too. AMD, same story. Ever since last July, consolidating for like a year, finally broke out. So really look for it for any stocks that have this type of setup. There's a lot of them out there. Definitely let me know if you find any more. Boeing's definitely not one, but just looking at them all in general, I think that Apple and AMD are kind of foreshadowing a lot of these other stocks on like what's going to happen because, like Netflix is in the same setup, a couple other stocks too. So just looking at it, I would expect a lot of other stocks to go up as well, especially if these ones keep running at all-time highs, because I feel like more and more stocks will just have to kind of get that momentum and get drug up with the market. But at the same time, though, we're seeing the SPY down today while these stocks are up. So it's really hard to say.
All right, and then we have Stefan asking about the VIX, VXX. I like it for a hedge right now, given everything going on in the market. I actually really like it, but it's so important. Like, you don't want to just, like, YOLO any random weekly VIX call. Like, you got to be strategic about it. I was looking at, like, the December VIX calls, maybe like the 25 or 30 strike calls, or even if you went like a little sooner than that, like maybe October or like maybe you could maybe like October or December. I think that'd be pretty good.
Yeah, I think that would be good too. And if you didn't want to like have to worry about timing, you could grab shares on like UVXY or something a little like riskier than VXX. But I think that that's smarter to go with, Mike, is doing like what you said, looking at something like December. And keep in mind that this stock will still go up quite a bit. So those calls, even though they're, far out of the money and stuff, a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'm not going to get that, 500%, 1,000% gain if it like flies up. But man, I'd be surprised. I've seen some big gains on some leaps and shit and stuff like that. So just looking at it, I would say that just looking like, you could get a lot of percentage gain out of leaps. Like it's a lot of people really put them down just because they might not want to hold it for that long or something, but I think a lot of it just has to do with that people feel like that the weeklies just can make a lot more. And, they can if the stock flies up today. But if you have the leaps and they fly up over the next week or two, it's almost the same as the stock flying up today, so it'll still like end up being pretty good in the end.
All right. And then we have R saying, good morning, Moderna, please. So just like Jay pointed out today, like this thing's tanking. It's down 7%. It looks really bad. I'm still like bearish on it. I can see it retesting maybe like 325, 330 over the next couple weeks. Just one thing to be aware with this one is you have to make sure that you're playing like high quality puts. Like you can't just get like any weekly out of the money put because they're expensive, or just because they're expensive. Like you want to make sure you have a quality option, because even if the stock falls, you can still lose if you don't get a quality option. So to get a quality option, you either want to pay like a lot of money for like an in the money put, or like maybe just get like a put debit spread or even a call credit spread.
Yep, makes sense. And I would say that it looks like we're coming up on some solid supports. Like you said, Mike, first one I think is going to be 350. And then after that, like you said, somewhere around like 330, 335. And then after that, maybe even 300. Who knows how low this thing can start to go? I mean, it ripped up so strongly for a couple days there that I would honestly, I'm not too surprised to see it moving like this. I know that we were waiting for this move for a long time, and I bet a lot of institutions were as well, which is probably why it's selling off so drastically.
All right. And then we have Maine saying, wow, nothing can stop UPST. And yeah, you're completely right. Like, this thing just keeps going. What do you think, Tom?
This is getting crazy. Four solid green candles after that gap. I mean, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. Up another 3% today. This stock has been absolutely insane, Mike. We should have held it, man. But it's a great trade nonetheless. But wow, that's an insane move to the upside. I cannot believe that. All the way up to 200 now. I mean, it's starting to blow my mind. Like last week, whenever we were at like 170, I thought it was an amazing move. And man, I can't believe it. It's just an amazing setup, an amazing stock. And I wonder, do you think that this is more of like institutions coming into this, Mike, or do you think this is
Uh,
a lot of retail traders?
I would think the institutions got in like quicker. Like I feel like this move, like the movement at this point is probably just people FOMOing in at the top. Like because it's moving so much. So, but to answer your question, I definitely think some institutions really played a role in moving this stock up. Especially like right after that earnings report, and even in anticipation of the earnings report, because we are talking about a pretty huge company, but I get pretty worried at this point. We're all the way up from like 130 all the way up to like 214, and it's been nothing but like a straight explosion to the upside.
Yeah, it has, and that's a really cool thing to see, actually. And I'm glad to see that it broke all-time highs. I think I was honestly waiting for like a maybe like a hit around $200 and a move back down, but I just can't believe this momentum we're seeing.
Yep, it's popping. All right, we have Matt saying morning, morning, Matt. And then we have G saying, "Wow, all my positions just dropped down, all at the same time." Okay, market. Yeah, it's lots of stuff going on right now. The SPY, it's not tanking just yet, but we are down around 0.5%, and we are breaking those lows. Like, look at this intraday movement.
Yeah, it's not looking good. The 1 minute chart is definitely looking a little scary right now on the SPY. And, we're only down to like Thursday's movement. So it's not like necessarily like we're, breaking any key levels yet or anything, but it's definitely worrisome, especially with all this news and stuff going on, all these earnings coming out. Definitely scary to hear. To me, that stuff like with the Fed is a bad thing to hear. If they start stopping those bond purchases, I mean, I feel like that's one of the only things that's kept the market up at this point. We've had like a lot of bad news coming out over the past year or two. This Delta variant's been getting worse and worse. I've heard of more restrictions coming out in certain states and stuff. So definitely lots of stuff going on. Keep your eyes open. I think it'll definitely be an interesting week, let alone the rest of today. But I think like tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, we might get some crazy stuff go on, especially with like this Afghanistan stuff. Like, who knows? They're starting to like pretty much take back over the whole country. So I think that we might get some crazy news come out of that or come out of something. I mean, it just seems like there's just like a lot of like tension in the air right now, and it's almost like something has to give soon. The markets are at all-time highs, and it's almost like can this really continue? And if they stop these these purchasing programs and stuff, it almost just seems like that's going to like set the bar for the market just to start to fall down.
Yeah, we're in some crazy times right now. All right, and then we have Alex saying, just closed my last August 30th 441 strike call, was up 25% on Friday at close. Luckily cut the position to bank profits. SPY looks terrible this morning. At least I still closed 7% on the last one. Well, there you go. You got out at a pretty good time, and, there's nothing wrong with taking profits. And I don't think that's a bad idea at all, given everything we're seeing in the market right now. And then we have AJ saying Geeks eBay. So I'm not sure what you mean there, but we'll take a look at eBay. It's up like 3%. It's popping. I think this is actually their all-time high. Let me double check. Yeah, they're breaking all-time highs right now.
Yeah, they are. That's actually awesome to see. I'm glad to see eBay running like this. A lot of people have kind of put eBay like to the wayside over the past couple of years. I feel like with like Amazon and just all these other stocks, but I know eBay's been pretty strong, and their earnings like weren't the best compared to the previous earnings they've had. So I'm not like, I'm like, for example, like I'm just not like seeing this momentum maybe continuing for too long, especially like with the market falling down. I would say they might be able to run up to like $80 or something and then maybe start to fall back. They're not like the biggest mover in the world, but I will say though, they've definitely been discounted the past couple of years with like Amazon and just all these other companies like them. But I will say though, I like them, and but my main thing right now is that the overall market's starting to come down a little bit. That's a pretty big scare to me. So I think eBay might start to fall down just based on the overall market.
All right. And then we have Corbin saying, when is the FOMC? So, Tom, when is that minutes meeting? Is it Wednesday?
Yeah, it's Wednesday. I don't know the exact time it comes out, but I think normally the minutes ends up coming out sometime in like in the afternoon, like 1 or 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Cool. So keep in mind that's not the press conference, Corbin. So the next FOMC press conference is on September 22nd, it looks like. So, this is just the minutes this week, so it's not as big of a deal. Of course, it's still important, but it's not going to, it doesn't have the influence like a press conference does. So keep that in mind. We have Spacely coming in saying, good morning, guys. Good morning, Spacely. Thanks for joining. Let us know what stocks you're watching. We have Maine saying, thoughts on Tesla puts, what levels to look for. So what are you seeing, Tom?
Yeah, man. I mean, Tesla's actually moving right off of this blue trend line. And I hope you guys have heard this a few times in the stream because I know I've definitely been bringing it up. But once again, we hit that blue trend line. We fall back below $700. Now that we fell below 700, I think it's game on for puts to me. Personally, I think we could see some more downwards movement this week, especially with the market falling down the way it is. Be a little careful. They're right along that 1,000 SMA and almost down to 690 already today. Sell off looks pretty accelerated, but I would say I think it looks pretty good. I'm not looking at the options chain right now for a specific strike or anything. I know Tesla's always going to be expensive, but I think it's definitely a good time to grab some puts. I think the way it's going down off these trend lines and stuff, not a good sign at all. And we could start to get a pop back up off this 1,000 SMA. I would say make it break below like 690 even, and then maybe grabbing into some more like momentum plays with puts to the downside if you wanted to do that. But I don't know, Mike. I think it just, to me, it looks like it could be a good, like almost like a swing play, like for the next like 3 days. I feel like Tesla just does not look good, and the way it's moving off this trend line is definitely a bad thing to see, and it just failed to hold 700. So I think we could see it go down. I'm not saying we're going to fall down to 600 or anything, but I think we could get a nice drop down to like 660 or like 665 or something.
All right. And then we have AJ saying puts for QQQ question mark. So not bad. You can do puts for QQQ, puts for SPY, VIX calls, VXX calls, stuff like that. I think that's a good hedge. And depending on, one, your risk tolerance, and two, what other plays you're holding, I think it could really be a good hedge.
Yeah, especially like with VXX and UVXY. I think those two stocks have like a lot of potential if the market starts to fall. The VXX can start to pop crazy numbers. Like I remember back in COVID, it popped like here, we'll just go back because I don't think it reversed split since then. Maybe it did because this is honestly kind of crazy looking, but we'll just get the percentage here really fast. Let's see. Looking like if we just look on the chart, like a nice 487% pop as the market fell on COVID. Now, keep in mind, every stock during COVID almost fell down like 50%. So that's probably not going to happen again. But still, looking at this, there's a lot of potential. If the market gets a little dip, we could see VXX pop back up to like $40, $35 pretty easily. So really watch out for it. It's definitely a good hedge. Like Mike said, if you're somebody who's holding a lot of like leap options, like with calls on a lot of stocks like Walmart, Boeing, stuff like that, and then like if you have like a lot of just exposure to the market to the upside or long, then I would say go ahead and, maybe grab some VXX calls or some shares of UVXY or something. I think it's a pretty good hedge, especially with everything going on and the market's at highs. So I'd say that's just a good way to play it right now. And, Mike, it's hard to, give like some good like levels necessarily for the VIX, but, it's honestly like it lows. So that's always a good sign. Your risk reward ratio is definitely at the better end of the spectrum right now.
All right. And then we have Vicky saying the Fed tapering / stopping purchase of mortgage-backed securities is excellent news. It means the economy is very strong. So yeah, I mean, also it would, rates would rise, which would also slow down the market a little bit, but definitely good news there, Vicky. And then we have Keisha saying, morning, what's up with Tesla? So TSLA, it's down like 4%. It's breaking below that major $700 support, and it's just bleeding off. Like it's just a lot of sellers coming in today.
Yeah, lots of sellers coming in, especially I like how you said that was $700, Mike. Like, we always talk about like these companies and institutions and just, like AIs and stuff like that, different types of bots people program to kind of like watch the market. And I would say this is popping up on a lot of people's radar since it broke $700. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just continued lower for the next few days. I would think that, like I said, this would definitely be popping up on a lot of scanners, lots of radars and stuff like that. I'm sure a lot of people had this $700 support as being a pretty good level.
All right, and then we have Kathy saying AMD please started this morning. Now it's down. All right, AMD. So it's down 2%. Yeah, it looks like I know we had some. I know we had a pretty big discussion on this on Friday, Tom, but it looks like a dead cat bounce. Looks like it got rejected right around that $111 area, and it's coming right back down. But over the next couple weeks, I can definitely see AMD falling.
Yeah, it does actually look like a dead cat bounce. I thought it looked really strong on Friday, the way it held its highs and everything. Once we broke 110 this morning, it just started really selling off. Once it broke out of that like little flag pattern it was in, that started to really accelerate the sell off. And man, all the way down to like 108 now. Not a good sign to see already with AMD today. And I'm with you, with this red candle today. If we get another down day tomorrow, it'll definitely show that dead cat bounce. And it definitely, I'd be careful with it. We're seeing a lot of the other parts of the market fall. And if that happens, I could see AMD, NVIDIA, and just all these chip stocks that have been killing it start to turn off to the downside, which, I hate to say because I love AMD. I love NVIDIA. I'm really biased towards these stocks, but it's just looking at the chart, looking at movement and stuff, just expect some downwards movement. And, that is funny you brought up last week, Mike, because, yeah, I remember you saying that about the dead cat bounce, and it looks like it's actually playing out.
All right, and then we have Corbin saying GLD has been slowly climbing this last week. So, yeah, I was looking at it. It's up like 0.5% right now, and it's having an amazing comeback.
Yeah, I was watching it as well. I always get alerts every time it moves 0.5%. And at highs today, it was up 0.5% earlier. So it was awesome to see that. But looking at just slash GC and GLD overall, I wonder if this news, like with the Kabul or with the Taliban and everything like that going on in Afghanistan, is going to play a big role in gold. Because I know that gold really starts to go up whenever these bad events start to happen. Not necessarily every time the market falls, but generally whenever there's like more of these like black swan events or like crazy events in the market is whenever it starts to really get crazy. So I think we could definitely see it start to continue up this week. And man, if the market starts to get an accelerated sell off, that could really show that the market could start to fall. And, I'm wondering if a lot of people were getting into gold last week, kind of like in anticipation of some of this. Cause I did hear a little stuff about Afghanistan and stuff last week, but man, it's crazy to see it running up like this today. GLD and gold might be on the recovery back, Mike. I mean, it was looking bad for a few days, but it held that 160 support and looks like it's actually recovering up really, really nicely. And I'm wondering if we could start to get back up to 170 or even like 172, that higher resistance up there.
Tom, let's take a look at Apple real quick. This thing was booming literally like 10 minutes ago, and now it's in the red.
All the way down 0.3%. I think we were positive like 2 or 3% to fall that much is kind of insane. Yeah, we're already down like it was actually like 1.5%. Now we're in the red. Crazy to see, Mike. Man, it's all these stocks were started to really run up today at open, and then I don't know what happened. I guess the news of the sell-off started to hit everybody else. I don't know, but crazy to see the sell-off happen now. I kind of was expecting one more at open, but man, Apple is looking so nice at all-time highs and just had a pretty good like fake out there. So just bad moves now, and it's hard to say now. I mean, we even moved back to the lows of the day. So I would almost say we could get more downwards movement soon with the way the overall market moved. But man, Apple, just all the indices, SPY, QQQ, just starting to look terrible today, Mike. Everything's selling off.
Yep, you know it. All right, we have G saying, question, Mike, I watched the video about movement from tech to those other plays. Can I get a quick reason why they transition to those plays specifically, like McDonald's and other ones? So, basically, every couple months or so, we see a rotation in the market. Basically what that means is, hedge funds and, just the market overall. Like, you could say like, institutions, it's like any major, like big player, right, in the market, transitions. They rebalance their portfolio. Like that's just like how the market works. And, we'll see like a rotation, like out of tech into value or out of value into tech or, even other areas of the market every couple months or so. And you're probably wondering like why this happens. And this is a lot due to risk versus reward. So let's say we pull up Apple right now. Apple actually broke its all-time high of like, let's say it's at like 150, just for like easy, perfect, simplistic reasons, right? Let's say you're running a $100 billion fund right now. And you have to put, $100 billion in the market this quarter, and you're going to have to try and get the best return on, your potential risk. So you could either invest in Apple, that's at all-time highs right now at 150, that just ran up from 125 all the way up to 150. It's a solid company, and it'll probably do great in the long term. But if you're trying to get, your highest return relative to your risk, and you have Apple as one of them, but then you look at like a slow and steady stock like, let's say Walmart, last week that was sitting at 142, and that its all-time high isn't until like 153, and it's still at a pretty good level. You're not paying as much in like premium. It's a nice slow and steady stock. You also have, some of these like hotel stocks at pretty good levels like MGM significantly off their highs. And, you're just trying to get your highest return relative to your risk. And a lot of times in those scenarios, continuing to buy up stocks that are already at their all-time high or are already just up a lot, you'll just have a higher return on your risk investing in other areas of the market. So that's why we see those rotations.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. That's a really good thing to point out, and a good a good example there. And I like how you pointed out, like for example, like if you were like let's just say like a financial advisor for like Goldman Sachs, like you'd go to the head of Goldman and be like, hey, sir, like we're thinking about changing our portfolio around. Obviously, Apple's doing great this year, up at all-time highs, but look, we could throw a couple million maybe into like BLNK, maybe get some into Walmart, get those higher returns. And I think personally, Mike, we might see a rotation into some of these like growth stocks that have been beaten down lately, kind of like Palantir, Zoom, BLNK, like all those other stocks. They're honestly like in the beginning stages of that rotation. They're starting to go down a little bit, and I think soon these stocks will start to be bought back up too. But it's just it's always hard to like time the rotation. I don't know about you, Mike, but that's the hardest part to me, is like getting that timing in with the rotation, which is always why it's generally better to get time and stuff like that on your options and just different plays. So looking at it, I would say that's a really good example, Mike. And I like how you brought it up like you were like the manager of the hedge fund. I think that was a good example.
Thank you for that. All right, Tom, look at UPST. This thing is so crazy. Oh my gosh. We have Maine saying UPST selling off. My put's looking good. Levels to look for the downside. So, Tom, what levels are you watching?
Man, I would say it looks like this high of Thursday, right around 186, is going to be, I think, a good support for today. Definitely double topped up there, and then broke that at open on Friday. Sorry, I'm having trouble. Oh, sorry, Siri. Did you guys hear Siri?
Yeah.
I guess Siri. I guess she heard me say your name, or I said something similar to it, but that was funny. But yeah, go up. She's listening to us, Mike. But
I know.
make it pass above 186 or pass below 186, I'd say, before entering the puts. But man, I could really see it starting to go down, especially with the way this sell-off is kind of getting accelerated. So, and we were at all-time highs. I could see it still going down. We're below $200. I would say 186 will be a good level.
All right, so I know Maine is already in the puts, which is looking great for them. That support that I see, the next major one is like right at 190. So watch for a bounce there, and then after that, like you could say like 186 or so. So be on the lookout for those two levels. And then we have Alex saying, how does Wynn look this morning? WYNN. Not good. It is down like 3% or so. A lot of cruise lines, airlines, and I guess you could say hotel stocks, and just everything else is in the red today. Even Apple, a tech stock powerhouse like Apple, even went in the red. Pretty much, not every stock, but a very high percentage of the stocks that I'm seeing today are red. So not looking good.
Yeah, almost every stock on my watch list is actually red besides McDonald's, 3M, Dominion, and FUV, and then GLD. So there's only a few stocks, and even the ones that are green are very slow movers. Not like they're going to be moving drastically like McDonald's and Triple M are some of the safer stocks in the market. So really crazy there. But man, it's getting crazy today. Like with the sell off, every stock's down. Like for example, the stocks that I even have in the green, Mike, the highest one is FUV, which is like a very like low price stock. They're only 1% in the green. To the downside, I have Moderna down 8%, Neo 6%, ChargePoint 5%, Airbnb 4%, Tesla 4%. So it's just getting really crazy with the sell-off today. And I would say that with everything going on, just be really careful with any types of calls today. It's going to be pretty hard to trade overall, but this sell-off is really going to start accelerating, and it's just going to like get into other stocks. Like even like my stocks that are green, like McDonald's and Triple M, I feel like they might even end up red soon.
All right. So then we have Keisha saying, good morning. Was there any news on Tesla, or is this just a market pullback? So I'm looking into the news right now. It looks like it's mainly because of the market pullback, but I saw that Tesla's autopilot system to be probed by U.S. auto safety regulator. So that came on the news. And then, that's like it seems like the main thing is just like the market overall.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. Like mainly the market overall. And then it fell below that $700 support, which it actually hit in like pre-market and then bounced up off of and then fell off of it or fell below it at open. So definitely a bad sign once we fell below 700. I would say the main catalyst is just breaking that level, because really bad to see that. And then really bad to see it moving down off this blue trend line too. Like on my longer term chart here, just terrible technicals on it right now. Just some of like the worst setups you could get almost.
All right. And then we have Stefan saying HRTX. Let's take a look. HRTX. Not looking good. Just to be completely honest with you, it's not really a setup for me. And, this long-term chart looks brutal. It's right at a $10 support, so hopefully it pops off that, but it's really just not for me.
Yeah, not for me either. But like Mike said, $10 seems like a decent support for it, but I could honestly see it going lower. Personally, I think that it's just safer to grab other stocks like, Palantir, Zoom, or, DraftKings, something like just a little safer, of course. This stock's really, I'll be honest, it's a very risky stock. Obviously, you can make money on it, but just look at the long term. I would say most like retail investors that have invested in this one have probably lost.
All right, and then we have Janita saying, hey, Mike and Tom, what is the next support level for Roku? Let's take a look. ROKU. So it's down like 2.5% today. The next main level I see is right around 345.
Yeah, 345 looks pretty nice actually over the next day or two. We actually just broke below 350, and it's not looking good. The sell-off is really sharp off of Roku's high up here. Ever since we double topped at the all-time highs around 490, we just went straight down. I would expect this to stop somewhere though, and maybe start to go back up. Like you said, maybe somewhere around 445.
All right, and then we have Keisha saying, my UPS option is the only thing green. Well, that's not good. Well, I guess it is good that at least you have like something green, because I know like so many stocks are down today. UPS isn't looking bad at all though.
Yeah, it's not. It's actually like turning back to the upside here. If we can start to get a couple more green days, and if we start to like fill this gap, that'll be amazing, and we'll be all the way back up to like 208. I would say if we could break above 200, it could be a really nice move for UPS. Definitely going to throw that one on the radar. Yeah, that's definitely like one of the only like nicer stocks, nicer setups today. So I really like it.
All right, and then we have Jay saying, what's the next resistance on Moderna? So it's down 9%. the first resistance I see is like 372, and then I see another resistance right around 360, and then I see support right at 340. You can say like 345, 346, and then another level right at like 340.
Yep, I have 350, so 346 somewhere like right around there should be pretty good, I think. And then it's just continuing to accelerate the sell-off. Fell right below that 1,000 SMA, and now we're just getting like honestly in a really bad type of setup for Moderna, not looking good. And I would think we could continue down for the next couple days, but definitely look for it to hit support. Like I said, somewhere like 350 or somewhere like 346, like Mike said. I think that'll definitely be a good level over the next few days. And just look over here in July, we honestly consolidated around like 350, in between like pretty much 340 and 350 for a long time. So really watch out. I think somewhere between there will be a really good level.
Tom, what are you thinking with this Neo action?
I'm thinking maybe sell some puts today. it looks too good, you know. I mean, down 6.7%, not looking good as far as like stock movement, but looking good as far as like opportunities. If I could get a strike somewhere down by like $30, maybe like later today or something, I'll definitely be eyeing it up even more. But man, down 6.8%. Cannot believe where I'm saying this right now with NIO. Didn't think we'd fall below $40, but man, Tesla on that long-term chart just really hit that trend line, fell right below support, terrible moves. And man, it's just bringing so many sellers into these stocks, into the overall market. It's just a bad combination, honestly, right now. Like there was so many different factors weighing in on the market. And I feel like that, I feel like it just kind of like blew up like in the Fed's faces. Just like, obviously like right now the sell-off's pretty drastic. And I mean, man, this might be like the start of like a couple week like downturn or something, because this is definitely bad to see.
No doubt. All right, just oops. Let's see. With the next question, we have Corbin saying, "What do you think about CAT?" Let's take a look. CAT. CAT. It's holding its ground very well. It's down like 0.5% or so. It's kind of like one of those value stocks, so I wouldn't buy puts on it because it has a lot more strength than some of these other stocks like Moderna or like basically anything else.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. It definitely seems like it has a little bit more strength, so I like that with it. But it's still scary to me. CAT even popped up like last week, so definitely had a lot of upwards movement over the last couple weeks. But it's going to be hard, I think. We're coming back up to some of these resistance levels. If we can pop back up above like 218.50, I think we could get a nice move.
All right. So, Tom, like, can you give us some levels on Apple? Because, like, I'm, like, having a hard time believing this movement. This is crazy. Like, it was, like, the leader at open, and now it's just, like, completely reversed.
Man, at open, I was hoping Apple would kind of hold its ground and keep going up so that it could drag the overall market up. But looks like we just had a huge fake out. Man, we're moving straight to the downside. I have a pretty big support level down here around 146. I think if we could hold 146 over the next couple days, it will end up doing pretty decent. But I'll be honest, the setup today is really bad. The movement's not good at all. If we start to keep falling down like over like the next couple weeks, like or next couple days, and we really break like 146 and then we break 144, I think we'll get some pretty accelerated moves down. Personally, Apple's been moving very well, honestly, the past few weeks, Mike. I mean, it's been at all-time highs, just kind of sitting here, kind of consolidating, and I would not be surprised to see it like hit, honestly, like go red like for the next month or two. The market's at all-time highs, Apple's at all-time highs. We have lots of other stocks too, so I think that we could just see a pullback with just about everything. Moderna is actually coming down right now, kind of like giving us a little bit of an insight, but it's just not looking good. I would say like 146 over the next 2 days, Mike. I don't know if you see anything different, but something like 146, 145, somewhere right around there.
Yeah, I can definitely see it. I just think that, with this Apple movement, like I think it's just more than anything else, it's showing that a lot of sellers are coming in. Like normally when you see Apple move like that at open, especially breaking all-time highs, like we almost always see a continuation. But in my opinion, this shows that like either shorts are loading up or just like people are just really taking profits.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people were honestly, I think people are obviously loading up on shorts right now with all this crazy news going on. But I would say like with with the way Apple flew up this morning and stuff, I would think a lot of people honestly took profits on this one because just looking at it, the way it was up and everything, and then the way the overall market was down and just with all the news, I cannot believe it even had the upwards movement it did at open, let alone, all the way up to all-time highs to 150.59. I didn't think we would see that, but then we ended up just tanking off. I think that, like you said, it's really giving an insight that a lot of traders, at least a lot of shareholders of Apple anyways, and a lot of these other stocks that flew up and then tanked down are honestly getting a little worried about everything going on. So it's definitely going to be bad for the market the next couple days. And, just give it some time. If we see tonight on the news, some crazy news about like the market dropping and stuff, man, wait till you see tomorrow morning. Once like a lot of these like longer term investors who necessarily don't follow like every single day's movement, once they start to sell out, man, it'll be like that sell off could start to get crazy because you'll have people selling out of like their 401ks and just, crazy like IRAs and stuff like that. So you'll start to see sell off get pretty accelerated, I think, if we continue to see movement down.
All right, and then we have market saying, how are we feeling on Pinterest? Let's take a look. It's not bad. It's bouncing off a big support at 55 right now. It's not bad at all. Personally, I like other stocks like Boeing a little bit better. Of course, DraftKings, but it's not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad. Pinterest is, it's going down a little bit. I'll say though, it's looking like we're getting down to that big support level I have posted here around $52. Honestly, the closer we get, the more upwards potential you have for the longer term. But I will say it does look like it is going down pretty accelerated right now. So I am a little worried that we might not be able to hold there. But just hard to say right now, Mike. I'd say I'm more of neutral on this one.
All right, and then we have Vicky saying Starbucks, please, for a day trade. So it actually looks pretty good. Look at this intraday movement. It's moving up pretty well. It's not bad at all, Vicky.
Yeah, it's actually not. I'm surprised to see this one moving the way it is today. And man, I would say, we are getting close to some resistance, I'd say, though, at like 117.50. And then I have my 1000 SMA at like 117.70. But I think it does look like one of the better setups today. I love how it's bouncing off some of these other SMAs. And it does look like it's definitely moving the best out of a lot of the other stocks on the market.
All right. And then we have Maine saying QQQ is going straight down. Yeah, I saw that intraday. It was definitely tanking off. Then we have Matt saying LMT thoughts. So this one's not bad. And Tom, I'm curious to. I'm definitely gonna put this one on my radar because of everything going on with like the Taliban right now. I know Lockheed Martin is involved in like defense and stuff like that. So this might not be a bad pickup.
Yeah, it might not actually, and they're actually like really big into defense. And yeah, looking at that with everything going on, and yeah, I think that could definitely be a smart pickup right now. And I'll be honest, Lockheed Martin is pretty far off of its all-time highs. If you grabbed it right now and it went back up to the top of its range here around 390, you're looking at 10%. If they get back up to their all-time highs, you're looking at a rise of 23%. So it's not going to be the biggest gainer in the world, but man, with everything going on, they could definitely start to rock it up with like some new contracts or something maybe over the next year or two, or who knows. But I definitely like Lockheed. I think it's awesome. And I would say maybe grabbing some shares right now to start to average into could be a great way to go. It does worry me with the overall market going down, but like with everything going on in the Middle East, it could definitely help Lockheed Martin. Maybe it could help GD, which is General Dynamics. That looks like their chart looks pretty decent as well. And I think it could even help Boeing possibly, but Boeing just has so much of their reliance in that public sector, which sucks. But overall, like Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, and some of those other ones will do a lot better just because of their military contracts, like you pointed out.
For sure. Then we have AJ saying Walmart. Wow. Yeah, it's definitely holding its ground very well. It's a value stock, and they have earnings soon.
Yeah, and it looks like they're actually pointing up towards all-time highs right now, and I would not be surprised to see them get up there. These with earnings coming up too. If they could actually report some decent earnings, I think we might see Walmart move up to new highs. Apple just hit new highs like a few days ago, finally broke out of that range. AMD was at highs, so I would not be surprised to see it. And I thought like Walmart, I should say. I remember whenever it was down here around like 135 and even down here around like 130, it was honestly like way underperforming compared to like how Target and stuff was moving at the time. So I'm really glad to see it kind of moving up and kind of like getting back up to those levels kind of and having that type of solid momentum the Target was having.
All right, and then look at Moderna. It's still going. We're now down 10%.
Man, over 10%. That's terrible to see. We're all the way down to the 350 support right now. I'm really going to be careful with this one. Man, this sell off was just so accelerated. It honestly fell right below that 1,000, just bounced off of it like 3 times before we finally moved below it. As soon as we did, though, today it opened, we just honestly just went straight down, fell below that 380 support too. Man, just terrible movement out of Moderna. Hate to see it, but hopefully we can hold 350 for today and then maybe start to get more downwards movement for tomorrow. But man, I don't know how much more you think this thing could go down, Mike. I mean, I know we had a big 15% down day last week, but we might have another one here.
Yeah, I can see like 320, maybe 325 over the next couple weeks or so, but this stream went by so quick, Tom. What stocks are you watching for the rest of the day?
Wow, yeah, you're right. It did go by really fast. I'm definitely gonna be watching Tesla. You know, that was a big stock for me. I love that long-term setup with the trend line. I think it looks like they could keep going down over the next few days. And you know, I love Tesla. I hate to see him go down, but honestly, like for like selling puts, grabbing some shares, it just creates such good opportunities. We did have some crazy news come out today. You know, with Afghanistan and everything, but we also have crude oil kind of selling off here as well. You know, it is kind of popping back up over the last 5 minutes, but ever since this Afghanistan news started, crude oil has been kind of going down a little. Sometimes you could expect this to make oil go up, but we'll have to see how this affects the oil market because any type of Middle Eastern news generally shakes up the oil market very drastically. So maybe watch for crude oil to keep going down. If it falls below the $65 support, I'd really look at puts on crude oil or maybe look at grabbing some drip calls or grabbing some drip shares or something like that. But with everything going on in the Middle East, it could go up too. So just watch out. It could definitely go either way. But I think this Middle East news will definitely make it pick a direction soon. So I'll definitely be watching that. Also just eyeing up the banks, you know, it looks like they are starting to sell off. So just eyeing those up over the next couple of days too.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. We had a lot of craziness happen in the market, so stay tuned for the rest of the week, and we hope you guys have an amazing